50 years ago, something magical was happening in recording studios around the world. While you were living your life in 1975, artists were creating songs that would become the soundtrack to your memories. These weren't just hits, they were moments that stopped you in your tracks the first time you heard them. Today, we're celebrating 10 legendary songs turning 50 this year. Get ready to rediscover the music that helped define who we are. Number 10. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Queen spent 3 weeks in mid-1975, perfecting what would become their masterpiece at Ridge Farm Studio in Surrey. When Bohemian Rhapsody was finally recorded in August 1975, it represented something completely unprecedented in popular music.
"'Cause I'm easy come, easy go."
Freddie Mercury had created a 6-minute operatic expedition that defied every convention of radio-friendly hits. Record company executives were skeptical, radio programmers were nervous, and many industry insiders thought the band had lost their minds. The song seamlessly wove together a haunting piano ballad, a mock opera middle section complete with references to Scaramouche and Galileo, and a thunderous hard rock finale. The recording process itself was revolutionary. Queen used a 24-track tape machine, but Mercury's vision required far more layers. The band had to bounce tracks repeatedly, losing sound quality with each transfer, but gaining the orchestral density Mercury demanded. Brian May's guitar harmonies were stacked dozens of times to create what sounded like a full orchestra, while the vocal arrangements required over 180 separate overdubs. When EMI Records first heard the finished product, they were convinced it would never work on radio. At nearly 6 minutes long, it violated every rule about commercial success. Everything changed when DJ Kenny Everett played it 14 times in 2 days on his Radio London show, creating such demand that other stations had no choice but to follow suit. Released in October 1975 in the UK and December in the US, it became the biggest-selling hit in Britain that year and spent 9 consecutive weeks at number 1. Mercury never explained the song's meaning, preferring to let listeners create their own interpretations. What he did create was a template for artistic ambition in rock music that inspired countless artists to think beyond the 3-minute single. Number 9. Love Will Keep Us Together by Captain and Tennille. The husband and wife duo of Daryl Dragon and Tony Tennille took a Neil Sedaka composition and transformed it into the year's most memorable love song. Originally written by Neil Sedaka and Howard Greenfield in 1973, the song had been recorded by Sedaka himself, but it took Captain and Tennille's interpretation to unlock its full potential. Tony Tennille's background in musical theater brought a storytelling quality to the vocals that elevated the song beyond typical pop fare. Her voice carried both vulnerability and strength, perfectly capturing the song's message about love's sustaining power. Daryl Dragon, known as the Captain for his Naval Reserve Service, brought his classically trained musical skills to the arrangement. His keyboard work provided the song's foundation, but it was the chemistry between the couple that made the magic happen. The production was deliberately stripped down, focusing on the essential elements: Tony's voice, Daryl's keyboards, and a rhythm section that knew when to stay out of the way. This approach allowed the song's emotional core to shine through without unnecessary embellishment. The song captured the optimism of couples everywhere, arriving at a time when America was ready for some good news. It spent 4 weeks at number 1 and became 1975's biggest-selling single, eventually earning them a Grammy Award. What made it special wasn't just its catchy melody, but the genuine chemistry between the performers. You could hear the real affection in their voices, something that couldn't be manufactured or faked.
You belong to me now.
Captain and Tennille proved that in an era of increasingly complex production and theatrical performances, sometimes the simplest approach, 2 people in love making music together, could still capture the nation's heart. Number 8. Philadelphia Freedom by Elton John.
The less I say, the more my work gets done.
Elton John's tribute to tennis champion Billie Jean King and her Philadelphia Freedom's tennis team became much more than a sports anthem. Written with lyricist Bernie Taupin, the song captured the spirit of an era seeking change and celebrating individual freedom. The friendship between Elton John and Billie Jean King began in 1973 when they met at a party in Los Angeles. King was fighting her own battles for equality in professional tennis, advocating for equal prize money and respect for women's sports. When King founded the Philadelphia Freedom's tennis team as part of World Team Tennis, Elton decided to write a song in her honor. The creative process brought together Elton's melodic genius with Bernie Taupin's evocative lyrics. Taupin crafted words that spoke to both the specific situation of women's tennis and the broader themes of liberation that were resonating across America in the mid-1970s. The song's title worked on multiple levels, celebrating King's team while invoking the spirit of Philadelphia as the birthplace of American freedom. Recording the song required a full orchestra and choir, arranged by Gene Page, whose work with Barry White had helped define the lush sound of mid-70s soul. The track showcased Elton at his most exuberant, with its driving rhythm and dynamic orchestration, reflecting the song's uplifting message.
If you choose to, you can live your life alone.
Released as a standalone single rather than part of an album, Philadelphia Freedom demonstrated Elton's ability to create music that transcended its original inspiration. While it began as a personal tribute to a friend, it became an anthem for anyone who believed in standing up for what's right. The song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of Elton's biggest hits. Number 7. Fame by David Bowie. David Bowie's collaboration with John Lennon and guitarist Carlos Alomar resulted in his first #1 hit in America. Fame was unlike anything Bowie had released before, a funky, rhythm-driven track that showcased his chameleon-like ability to reinvent himself. The song's creation story reads like musical talent colliding at the right moment. Bowie was in New York City, having moved there to explore American soul music and escape the character of Ziggy Stardust that had begun to consume his identity. At Electric Lady Studios, he was working with guitarist Carlos Alomar when John Lennon dropped by for what was supposed to be a casual visit. The three musicians began jamming on a guitar riff that Alomar had been developing. Lennon contributed both musical ideas and lyrical inspiration, helping Bowie craft verses that offered sharp commentary on the entertainment industry's hollow promises. The former Beatle understood celebrity's dark side perhaps better than anyone, and his input gave the song authenticity that resonated deeply. The collaboration was loose and organic, with ideas flowing freely between the three artists. The song's hypnotic groove and repetitive vocal hooks created an almost trance-like effect, while Bowie's lyrics offered insights that could only come from someone who understood celebrity's double-edged nature. The recording captured lightning in a bottle, with Bowie's vocals processed through various effects, creating an otherworldly quality that matched the song's themes. Recorded during the sessions for Young Americans, Fame represented Bowie's successful transition from glam rock to what he called plastic soul. It proved that artistic integrity and commercial success weren't mutually exclusive, and that an artist could evolve without losing their essential identity. The song's success in America finally gave him the #1 hit that had eluded him, opening doors for the next phase of his career. Number 6. Rhinestone Cowboy by Glen Campbell.
I know every crack in these dirty sides.
Glen Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy captured the dreams and struggles of 1970s America. Written by Larry Weiss about his own uphill climb in the music industry, the song found new life when Campbell, himself a former session musician, recognized its emotional power.
Where hustle's the name of the game.
With smooth vocals and precise guitar work, Campbell brought authenticity to the story of chasing stardom against the odds. His years behind the scenes in LA's music scene gave him a deep connection to the song's themes of hope and resilience.
Like a rhinestone cowboy.
Recorded at Capitol Studios with producer Dennis Lambert, the track was polished but heartfelt. Campbell's warm delivery conveyed both ambition and weariness, turning the Rhinestone Cowboy into a relatable symbol of perseverance. The song's crossover appeal, country, pop, and adult contemporary, helped it top the country charts for 3 weeks and break into the pop top 10. More than a hit, it became Campbell's signature, and a timeless anthem of the American dream, delivered by someone who'd lived it. Number 5. Lady Marmalade by LaBelle. Patti LaBelle, Nona Hendrix, and Sarah Dash created one of the most provocative and unforgettable songs of the decade. With its New Orleans-inspired groove and French-English vocals, Lady Marmalade broke every rule about what a mainstream hit could be. The song originated from the creative mind of songwriter Bob Crewe and producer Kenny Nolan, who crafted a narrative that was both exotic and accessible. Set in New Orleans' French Quarter, the story followed an encounter with a Creole woman working the streets. But the trio's interpretation elevated it far beyond its basic premise. The French phrases woven throughout the song gave it an international flavor that was rare in American popular music. LaBelle's transformation from a traditional R&B group called Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells into the futuristic funk trio LaBelle represented one of music's most dramatic reinventions. Under the guidance of producer Vicky Wickham, the three women had adopted a new sound and image that challenged every convention about how female R&B artists should look and sound. Their space-age costumes, designed by Larry Legaspi, featured metallic fabrics and avant-garde silhouettes that seemed to come from another planet. The recording sessions captured the trio at their most fearless. Patti LaBelle's powerful lead vocals soared over Nona Hendrix's and Sarah Dash's intricate harmonies, while the rhythm section provided a groove that was both funky and sophisticated. The production incorporated elements of rock, funk, and Caribbean music, creating a sound that was both contemporary and timeless. The trio's powerful harmonies and theatrical presentation challenged conventions about femininity and sexuality in popular music. Their elaborate costumes and bold stage presence matched the song's unapologetic attitude. This wasn't just a performance, it was a statement about female empowerment and sexual liberation that was years ahead of its time. The song's success proved that audiences were ready for something more adventurous than the typical pop fare. LaBelle's fearless approach to both their music and image paved the way for countless artists who would follow their lead in pushing artistic boundaries. The track reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, giving the trio their biggest hit and establishing them as pioneers of funk and disco. Lady Marmalade became more than just a hit song. It was a cultural phenomenon that showed how music could challenge social norms while still being commercially successful. The song's influence extended far beyond the charts, inspiring fashion designers, choreographers, and performers to embrace boldness and originality. Number 4. I'm Not in Love by 10cc.
It's just a silly phase. I'm gone.
10cc's I'm Not in Love may sound effortless, but it was the result of months of meticulous work. Using groundbreaking recording techniques at Strawberry Studios, the band layered dozens of vocal tracks to create an ethereal, choral effect they called the human synthesizer.
Don't get me wrong, don't think you got it.
Graham Gouldman and Eric Stewart, seasoned songwriters, built the song around a simple guitar progression, but their perfectionism turned it into something emotionally rich and sonically innovative. Each vocal layer was carefully tuned, crafting a sound that felt both intimate and otherworldly. Producer Eric Stewart also experimented with early sampling, subtly weaving fragments of Sarah Vaughan's voice into the mix. The whispered, "Big Boys Don't Cry" became an iconic emotional touchpoint.
Be quiet, big boys don't cry.
Instead of dramatic declarations, the song's power came from restraint. The narrator insists he's not in love, while the lush arrangement says otherwise, creating a tension that resonated deeply with listeners. More than studio wizardry, every choice served the song's emotional truth. Its success, top 5 in both the UK and US, proved that audiences were ready for subtle, sophisticated pop that pushed boundaries without losing heart.
It hides a nasty stain that's lying.
Number 3. The Hustle by Van McCoy. Van McCoy's instrumental disco anthem didn't just become a hit, it created a cultural phenomenon. The song introduced America to a dance that became a nationwide craze, filling dance floors from New York to Los Angeles. McCoy, primarily known as a songwriter and producer for other artists, stepped into the spotlight with this track that perfectly captured disco's early energy. The song's infectious rhythm and memorable melody made it impossible to ignore, while its dance-friendly structure made it a DJ favorite. The Hustle represented disco's arrival as a mainstream force, proving that dance music could be sophisticated and commercially successful. The song's success helped establish the template for the disco explosion that would dominate the rest of the decade. Number 2. That's the Way, I Like It, by KC and the Sunshine Band. Harry Wayne Casey and Richard Finch created the Miami sound that would help define disco's golden age. With its simple, repetitive lyrics and irresistible groove, That's the Way, I Like It became the kind of song that could fill any dance floor instantly. The track's infectious energy came from its tight rhythm section and KC's enthusiastic vocals. This wasn't music for careful listening, it was pure celebration, designed to make people move and forget their troubles. The band's multicultural lineup reflected disco's power to bring people together through music. KC and the Sunshine Band understood that sometimes the best songs are the simplest ones. That's the Way, I Like It proved that a great groove and genuine enthusiasm could be more powerful than any complex production or deep lyrics. Number 1. Thank God It's Friday by Love and Kisses.
Thank God it's
Alec Kostandinos' disco creation became the unofficial anthem for weekend freedom everywhere. The song perfectly captured that feeling of liberation that came with Friday evening, when the work week ended and possibilities seemed endless.
Thank God.
With its driving beat and celebratory lyrics, Thank God It's Friday expressed what everyone was feeling but hadn't quite put into words. The song's success led to a movie of the same name and helped establish the cultural significance of Friday night in the disco era. This wasn't just another dance track, it was a cultural touchstone that recognized how important escape and celebration had become in American life. The song gave people permission to let loose and embrace joy without apology. Looking back at 1975, we were witnessing a musical revolution. These songs didn't just entertain, they redefined what pop music could be. From Queen's operatic rock to disco's joyful energy, artists took bold risks, trusting audiences to follow. Each of these 10 tracks marks a moment when creativity beat convention. Whether through 10cc's studio wizardry, LaBelle's reinvention, or Bowie's constant evolution, the sheer variety, from Glenn Campbell's country pop to Van McCoy's disco, shows how open the era was to new sounds. Even 50 years later, these songs still resonate. They remind us of a time when radio could surprise, and commercial hits could be daring. Tracks like Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm Not in Love, and The Hustle didn't just define 1975, they shaped music for decades. What's your favorite song from 1975? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more musical throwbacks. These tracks may be turning 50, but their impact hasn't aged a bit.